Welcome and thank you for standing by. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I'd like to inform all participants you will be in a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's conference. I would now like to turn the conference over to Mr. Andrew Schlack. Thank you, sir. You may begin.
Great. Thanks, Tasha. On behalf of the CDFI Fund, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar related to the fiscal year 2021 CDFI Fund Technical Assistance Program application. I'm Andrew Schlack, an Associate Program Manager on the CDFI Fund CDFI Program and Native Initiative team, and I'm joined by several colleagues today, including Amber Bell, who's the Program Manager for the CDFI and Native Initiatives Program, as well as Elizabeth Hoffman and Matthew Pickering, who are both Senior Portfolio Managers on the team and will be leading us through today's materials. Before we get started, I'd like to just share a couple of housekeeping items. First, a couple of things as we shared. This is the webinar that's intended to provide guidance and answer questions on our technical assistance application. So things that we won't cover today are any reasons for past funding round decisions, so previous year's funding round awards. We won't be covering any instructions on how to enter data into the application within our awards management and information system. We won't be covering anything related to matching funds, and we also will not be covering anything related to the announcement of the CDFI Rapid Response Program, as there's a series of webinars related specifically to that program that are on the schedule. Before we introduce Elizabeth, who's going to kick us off on the materials today in the slide presentation, we'd like to just navigate from the CDFI Fund website to show everyone just very quickly all of today's materials are posted online, as well as these recordings for all webinars are also posted. And so as a courtesy, we're just going to quickly navigate to the place where these materials live on the website. So if you go to cdfifund.gov, from our homepage on the top ribbon under Programs and Training, underneath Programs, you'll see here the CDFI Program and Native Initiatives. There's a symmetrical structure to both of these program pages, but for the efficiency of time, I'll just go directly into the CDFI program. And this is the landing page for the overall program. And what we're going to cover today is posted here under the Step 2 on how to apply. And if you click on that, it brings you to this page, which again looks identical if you were to go through the Native Initiatives page. And under Step 2, you can see here a posting of all of the upcoming key timeline, deadline dates, as well as a collection of the webinars. Today we're covering this webinar, and once the recording is posted, it'll be available for viewing underneath the access link here. But you can see the upcoming webinars that we have. And so just to cover a couple of the materials that we thought would be useful to have at hand as we go through today's training on technical assistance is the NOFA underneath technical assistance. The NOFA, this application overview presentation, and the guidance document. We can get into more of these materials, but we just generally wanted to show folks how to navigate to this page before we get going. And the last matter of housekeeping is a rough agenda for today. So we have a 20 to 30 minute slide presentation, and after the slide presentation, we will go to operator facilitated question and answer. We know that there's a little question and answer in a chat box that's part of this WebEx. It's really hard to use that as a team, working remotely. So we would ask everyone, if you do need to ask a question, you want to have a conversation with us during the question and answer, to use the operator-assisted dial-in. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Elizabeth Hoffman. Elizabeth.
Great, thank you, Andrew. I wanted to highlight quickly on the page Andrew just showed us, number 2, under the technical assistance materials, the CDFI Fund Overview presentation. That is a large PowerPoint deck that includes all the slides we're going to be doing today. We're doing a subset of those slides today that focus just on technical assistance. But for folks who might be interested in viewing the slides, after today's presentation, they will be contained in that file there that Andrew has highlighted. Returning now to the presentation, I'm going to start by giving a brief overview of the CDFI Fund. Our mission is to expand economic opportunity for underserved people and communities by supporting the growth and capacity of a national network of community development lenders, investors, and financial service providers. Our vision of the CDFI Fund is an America in which all people and communities have access to the investment capital and financial services they need to prosper. The CDFI Fund accomplishes our mission through a variety of programs, as you see listed on the slide here. Today we'll be focusing on the CDFI program and the Native American CDFI Assistance, or NACA program. Next, there's a twofold purpose of the program: to promote economic revitalization and community development through investment in and assistance to CDFIs. And then the second bullet here, our second purpose is really the highlight of the technical assistance program, namely to build the capacity of both for-profit and nonprofit community-based lending organizations to serve rural and urban low-income people and communities across the nation that lack adequate access to affordable financial products and services. Some of you on the call today may be interested in joining because you are not yet a certified CDFI and you would like to become one. These are the various types of organizations that become certified CDFIs, different financial institutions, such as loan funds, credit unions, banks or depository institution holding companies, and venture capital funds. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Matthew Pickering.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. So under the CDFI and NACA program, there are two separate award groups. There's the Financial Assistance, or FA, award group, which we're really not going to be talking about today. But nevertheless, under that, we have a base financial assistance. And under the base financial assistance, there are several supplemental applications that FA applicants can apply to. But the subject of today's webinar is going to be the Technical Assistance, or TA, grant. So I want to start off here by saying that there are a lot of slides in this slide deck today that are very, very heavy on information. And we do understand that, but we hope that everybody is supportive. We're going to go through things line by line here, and we'll try not to make it too monotonous for you, but we do want to make sure that we get all of this information out there, especially for people who are new to these programs this year. So for the CDFI program, to be eligible for this program, you can be either an emerging CDFI or you can be certified. And just a note here that a certified CDFI, in order to apply for technical assistance, must meet NACA eligibility criteria, which can be found in Table 8 of the applicable NOFA. There are no matching funds required for technical assistance, and the maximum award amount in the CDFI program is $125,000. We have a minimum award request amount of $10,000, and this year we expect the average CDFI program TA award to be the maximum at $125,000. Since there are no matching funds, all TA awards are provided in the form of a grant, and they must all be expended for eligible activities in 7 different categories. Those include compensation for personal services and fringe benefits, professional service costs, travel costs, training and education costs, equipment, and supplies. Certified CDFIs who receive a TA award will have a 2-year reporting period, and uncertified CDFIs will have a 3-year reporting period. You can apply for either FA or TA under the CDFI program, but not for both. If you're an emerging CDFI, you can only receive 3 TA awards prior to obtaining CDFI certification. And finally, the CDFI fund cannot obligate more than $5 million in the aggregate to CDFI and NACA program recipients, excluding DFFA and HFFIFA, to any organization and its subsidiaries and affiliates. And this year, we'll be calculating that $5 million cap using any awards received during fiscal years 19, 20, and this year, fiscal year 2021. And now we're going to move on to the NACA program technical assistance, which in some ways is parallel with the CDFI program, but has a few details that are different. So to be eligible under the NACA program technical assistance, you can be, as before, an emerging CDFI or certified CDFI, but you can also be a sponsoring entity. And we'll get into a little bit more about what that is in the future. But all TA applicants applying for the NACA program, including certified, emerging, and sponsoring entities, have to demonstrate that they serve one or more Native communities. And as with the CDFI program, there are no matching funds required for TA applicants. But for NACA, the maximum award request amount is $150,000, which is a bit more than the CDFI program. Same minimum award amount as CDFI, which is $10,000, and we estimate the average award for NACA will be $148,000. Again, no matching funds, so all TA awards are provided in the form of a grant. And for NACA, TA awards can be expended for all the same 7 activities as the CDFI program, but with one addition. Sponsoring entities only are eligible to use TA awards for incorporation costs under the NACA program. So the reporting period for certified groups is going to be 2 years, 3 years for uncertified CDFI recipients, and if you're a sponsoring entity, it'll be a 4-year reporting period. So an applicant, just like with the CDFI program, can apply for either FA or TA under the NACA program, but not both. If you are a NACA eligible applicant and you apply for TA under both the CDFI and NACA program, which is possible, you will receive the TA award under the NACA program. Emerging CDFIs, just like with the CDFI program, again, can receive up to 3 TA awards prior to becoming certified. And if you're a sponsoring entity, you can only apply for an award if you don't have an active prior award, or if the certification goals from any prior awards have already been satisfied, and you're proposing to create another CDFI to serve a Native community. And finally, the same applies with the $5 million funding cap for NACA as for CDFI. Again, that $5 million funding cap is calculated this year using awards from fiscal years 2019, 2020, and 2021. So for the purposes of technical assistance, we have 3 different ways that we consider certification. We have certified CDFIs, emerging CDFIs, and sponsoring entities, again, which applies only to the NACA program. So refer to Table 5 in the applicable NOFA for more about the definitions of these applicant types. But we are going to take a few moments to provide a little bit more information on each of those. So a certified CDFI is an entity that the CDFI fund has officially notified that it meets all certification requirements. And just a side note, to be considered certified for the purposes of the fiscal year 2021 funding round, an applicant has to be certified as of the date of publication of the NOFA. And this year, an applicant will have to be certified as of February 18th. Emerging CDFIs are uncertified groups but that who can demonstrate to the CDFI fund in their application they have a plan that's acceptable to become certified within the period of performance. If you have any prior awards as an emerging CDFI, you're going to be held to the certification goals that are stated in any prior assistance agreement. Emerging CDFIs are only eligible to apply for technical assistance. They're not able to apply for financial assistance. And if you're an emerging CDFI that's selected to receive a TA grant, you will have a requirement to become certified and a date which will be stated in your assistance agreement by which you'll have to become certified. And finally, here, sponsoring entities. Again, this is only applicable to the NACA program. A sponsoring entity is a legal organization that serves a Native community primarily, which means that at least half of its activities go to the Native community. This type of organization, if they receive a TA award, will be required to create a separate legal organization that will become certified and will serve Native communities. Sponsoring entities can only apply for NACA program TA awards. They are not eligible for any other program. And each sponsoring entity that is selected to receive a TA award will be required to create that CDFI and ensure that that CDFI becomes certified by the dates specified in the assistance agreement. I'm going to hand it back over to Elizabeth, who is going to go over some details about the application.
Thanks, Matthew. On this slide, I wanted to highlight one thing. You'll see we've jumped from the CDFI fund overview to completing the narrative responses. The second bullet, which we're not going to deal with in depth today, preparing your application, is because we did a webinar back in December on, we sort of call this the pre-application webinar. It goes through things you need to do in the SAM.gov, grants.gov, and our CDFI fund AMIS system before you can apply. So if that is not something that you've had a chance yet to view, you can either access those slides from the technical assistance materials, or if you wish to watch the recording of the December webinar, please do so. Now, as we think about the technical assistance application, it will be submitted in AMIS. That is our CDFI Fund Award Management Information System, where we do all our work with our awards. The first component is the funding application detail, which has just general and administrative information. There are narrative response components, which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a moment. There is application financial data. You will provide 7 years in total, 3 historic fiscal years, the current fiscal year, and 3 projected fiscal years. In the technical assistance application guidance, Table 13 helps you determine, for the purposes of this application, what you should consider your current fiscal year, and then you'll work backward or forward from there. And there are some additional data and charts to be included in AMIS as well. Continuing with the application components, you will submit key staff resumes as well as your organizational chart. We will ask for audited financial statements for the 3 most recent historic fiscal years. If you do not have audited statements, you may submit your unaudited ones. We also ask for a management letter from your most recent audit. Table 10 in the NOFA provides some additional description of that. And we know that not all auditors provide that management letter. So on the next slide, you'll see that within AMIS, we have the opportunity for you to create something called the statement in lieu of management letter, basically saying if you did not receive one, it asks you some questions about your internal controls that are similar to, to be what would be in a management letter. I should also clarify these are only for our unregulated financial institutions, not for the regulated ones. We will also ask for the unaudited financial statements of your most recent year, if your audited statements are not available. And then finally, your current year-to-date statements, meaning up until the start of your fiscal year to December 31st, 2020. Now let's talk a little bit more about the TA narratives. There are two sections. Section 1, these questions are required only for the uncertified applicants. So that would be the emerging CDFIs and the sponsoring entities. And what the goal really here for uncertified applicants is to describe either how you are already meeting or how you intend to meet these 5 of 7 CDFI certification requirements: primary mission, financing entity, target market, accountability, and development services. Again, if you're not yet certified and you're applying for a TA, if it's your first time applying, you would have a performance period of 3 years to go ahead and achieve CDFI certification. So in TA narrative section 1, that would be explaining, how you're going to get there. Second section of the TA narratives is for all applicants, whether you're certified or uncertified, and it's discussing your business strategy. For example, providing your organizational overview, some about your management and staff, community coordination, financial performance, organizational impact. This is where you'll tell us, a bit more about if you are successful in receiving the TA grant, what your strategy will be for using those funds. A quick note for our organizations that are applying as a sponsoring entity, again, through the NACA program, this looks just a little bit different since they have, sort of a different goal of creating a future CDFI, and there are tips in the TA application guidance specifically for sponsoring entities that we recommend you review. If you receive a TA award, you must spend it in the following eligibility categories. You'll see that these are all things that work to build the capacity of your organization, such as compensation and consulting, professional service costs, travel or training, and then only sponsoring entities, that last bullet, may also spend a portion of the TA award on any incorporation costs of creating that new CDFI. Please note, with the exception of some of our groups are depository institution holding company applicants that apply on behalf of the subsidiary regulated institution, but unless you fit into that category, CDFI program TA awards may not be used to support the activities of or otherwise be passed through, transferred, or co-awarded to any other entity, unless you have a merger, acquisition, or similar transaction with the CDFI funds prior written consent. Note also that for our NACA program sponsoring entity groups, we've talked a little bit about how their goal is to help create a new legal entity that would be the emerging CDFI. That must be done within the first year of the period of performance. And then the sponsoring entity and the CDFI fund will work together to amend the assistance agreement and add that new emerging CDFI as a co-recipient. At that point, it will transfer any and all remaining balances or assets from the TA award to the emerging CDFI. Again, on our overview slide here, we are not going to review the matching funds since that is specific to financial assistance. If you are a certified group and you're trying to decide between applying for technical assistance or financial assistance, I would highlight that we have a webinar on Thursday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be going over the details of the financial assistance program then. With that, I'd like to turn it back to Matthew.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. So the CDFI funds application submission process contains 2 main deadlines, some very important dates to remember. Step 1 is to remember the date of March 22nd, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. All TA applicants are going to have several things due at this point. They must create an AMIS account, submit and have their SF424 validated by grants.gov, or accepted by grants.gov rather, and they must also enter their EIN and DUNS numbers in the AMIS account. For those applying for FA, there's an additional deadline here in that if you're eligible for a CICA, but you wish to apply for more than $700,000, you must submit a service request by this date. Again, that's only applicable to the FA program, so not for technical assistance. Finally, the second date of May 3rd, 2021 at 11:59 p.m., that is the date to remember to finally submit on or before that time your completed CDFI or NACA program TA application in AMIS, including all required application documents. So we're going to take some time to go over the 4 steps of technical assistance evaluation process. And just to note that all of this is conducted by members of the CDFI Fund staff. So the step 1 is eligibility review. We're not going to go too into detail on this, but just note that there are eligibility requirements clearly detailed in the NOFA, which you can find on the page that Andrew navigated us to earlier in this webinar, and specifically refer to tables 5, 6, and 7 to learn about whether or not your organization would be eligible for technical assistance. The second step of the evaluation process is a compliance risk evaluation. So the CDFI Fund has developed a tool called the Application Assessment Tool, or AAT, which conducts the compliance risk evaluation. This tool is using some data provided by the applicant in the application. This tool produces a total compliance composite score with 1 to 5, with 1 being the best score and 5 being the least good. It uses data like the applicant's reporting history, reporting capacity, and performance risk with respect to PG&M. If you have a total compliance score of 1, 2, or 3 in the compliance risk evaluation, you will automatically move on to step 3. If your organization scores a 4 or a 5, that will be further evaluated by CDFI Fund staff, who will determine whether or not that group can move on to step 3. Okay, the step 3 business plan review, as Elizabeth talked about a little earlier in the slideshow, Section 1 is only applicable for uncertified CDFIs and sponsoring entities. So in order to move past Section 1 of the Step 3 review, you would have to get a low risk or a medium risk of this section of the business plan review. Then you would move on to Section 2, which is applicable to all TA applicants, including certified CDFIs. And in this section as well, you would have to receive a rating of low risk or medium risk in order to be considered for an award and move on to Step 4. And during Step 4, which is final award decision, that's when the CDFI Fund is going to make sure that your organization adheres to the CDFI program's policies and procedures and federal regulations. And during this stage, we'll also do some additional due diligence. And 2 brief notes here about how an applicant's applications are going to be evaluated for TA. If your organization is a certified CDFI, we'll be evaluating your application on your demonstrated need for technical assistance funding in order to build your CDFI's capacity, further your strategic goals, or achieve impact within your target market. If your organization is an emerging CDFI or a sponsoring entity, we'll be evaluating your application on your capability and plan to achieve CDFI certification within a given amount of time, either 3 years or 4 if you're a sponsoring entity. But if you're a prior awardee, we'll be looking in to see about your progress toward achieving your certification performance goal that has been stated in any prior assistance agreement. So, each applicant requests an initial payment amount in AMIS. It's very important to take note of this, that the initial payment amount is the amount that you should reasonably expect that you can expend within the first 12 months after the award announcement. Our initial payment that comes from the CDFI Fund is going to be based on this initial payment amount that you enter into the application. This becomes a very important detail when you start looking into the PG&Ms that will be associated with your eventual TA award. Just note here that you'll be expected to expend 90% of your initial payment amount within the first 12 months of the period of performance. Note that that's 90% of the initial payment amount only. By the end of the period of performance, you'll be expected to have spent 100% of the entire award amount. And just a quick note here, you must request an award amount in AMIS, and if you don't do that, you will not be able to submit your application. Okay, so this chart is a chart that is reproduced twice in the NOFA, and the first time it is produced is right up at the front of that NOFA, so it's in very plain sight. It's very important to note that these are the key dates for the application funding round. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, the first key date is March 22nd, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. There are 4 things due at that time, only 3 of which apply to the technical assistance applicant. That being creating an AMIS account, entering your EIN and DUNS numbers in AMIS, and having your SF-424 submitted and accepted by grants.gov. Note that on April 29th, 2021 at 5 p.m., that's the last day we'll be able to take any calls or service requests about program-related questions. And May 3rd at 5 p.m. is the last moment to contact AMIS IT Help Desk, and that would be regarding technical problems only. And finally, on May 3rd at 11:59 p.m. is the final date final moment to submit your CDFI or NACA, FA, or TA award amount. And just remember, these are the final deadlines for all of these things, but we definitely encourage everybody to submit things as early as possible, especially things like that third line here, submitting your SF-424 in grants.gov. Make sure that you do not wait until the very last minute to do these things. The earlier the better as far as we're concerned. And so we've taken a slide here to list out some important contact information for various questions that you might have regarding your technical assistance application. But we do encourage everybody, as your first line of communication, the most efficient way of getting in touch with us is to use an AMIS service request. We do try to answer service requests as quickly and efficiently as possible, especially during application season. So please do make your first question through an AMIS service request. And again, with grants.gov and sam.gov, also please note that the CDFI fund does not run those websites or those platforms. So if you have any questions at all about grants.gov, which includes the SF-424, please make sure to contact grants.gov. And questions with sam.gov go to the Federal Service Desk. That is noted there below. And again, this contact information and this slide deck is available on our website. And we have 2 different websites on our main cdfifund.gov website for additional information and application material. There's a separate website for both CDFI and the NACA program. Please make sure you check these websites periodically because we will add things to them on a rolling basis. You want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date and the maximum amount of assistance materials that you can have. And we do post valuable information on both of those sites. So we want to thank you for participating in today's workshop and for coming and showing up. I'm going to hand it back to Andrew Schlack, who will, open it up for question and answer.
To ask a question, press star 1, unmute your line, and speak your name when prompted, as your name is required to introduce your question. And to remove your question, press star 2. Again, to ask a question, press star 1. One moment as we wait for questions. All right, Mike Jones, your line is open for your question.
Thank you for taking my call. Just two quick questions. At the beginning of the presentation, you showed where the slide deck can be reviewed. Can you quickly tell us where that is again? Perfect. Let me take a screenshot. Thank you. The other question is, there is no way that my organization that is just starting is going to meet any of these deadlines. So when is the next round that we would be looking at in order to go through this process?
So this is Andrew. Thanks for the question. And just for the benefit of folks who may have missed the intro, I'll just quickly navigate there again. All of the materials that Matthew and Elizabeth have covered are, if you go to cdfifund.gov, underneath programs and training, underneath programs, there's a CDFI program and Native initiatives. I showed the CDFI program. Again, it's identical once you get into the page. I'll this time go through Native initiatives. You click on either one of those programs, you'll end up at the home base of each program, and then underneath step 2, which is apply, the apply form here is linked to the application-specific process. And so what we're talking about right now is the fiscal year 2021 application deadline, and those materials are posted right here underneath the technical assistance materials section. And if I gather from your question, if you are interested in exploring, technical assistance, this program is designed to be a very, a low lift for organizations that are interested in applying to become a certified CDFI. We have extended this application period and would hope and really encourage people at this point, like now is a perfect time, depending on where your organization is at in terms of becoming a, financial institution. If you are interested in pursuing CDFI certification, the technical assistance program is teed up to empower you to do just that. So I just want to underscore that. It sounded like in your question, you might be thinking that it's too late to apply this year. And I would just, throw it out there that based on these application materials, again, this is a lighter lift, but if you are on the path to certification this year, and again, you have a 3-year performance period that you'd have to apply to become a certified CDFI during that period, you might, reconsider whether or not to apply this year. But to answer your basic question, these are typically an annual funding round. So, based on congressional appropriation, we have resources to run this program, but it comes up on an annual basis, and it's roughly on the same schedule every year. But again, all of that is subject to change as it is an appropriations-based program. And then, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I think you were probably going to say the same thing I was, Andrew, but I was just going to mention that, that first deadline we mentioned coming up for the SF 424 and grants.gov. That is the standard form used across the federal government for all grants programs. And the good news about that is it's quite short. All the values are spelled out in our application guidance. You pretty much put in your organization name and address, which program you're applying for, and you're good to go. So, that one, again, you have to register in sam.gov and grants.gov before you can submit that, but don't let that March 22nd deadline intimidate you either, is what I was going to say.
Thank you.
Excellent. You read my mind, Elizabeth. And if for anyone, Elizabeth mentioned this earlier too, we did have a helpful webinar on the grants.gov and sam.gov systems and getting registered and all set up there back on December 2nd. If you did not participate and you're sort of new to this whole process, which the last caller may have been, and you want to sort of acclimate yourself to this program, the resources from that webinar, including this very helpful recording that takes you through, the process, can be viewed right here on the same webpage. But just to piggyback on what Elizabeth shared, that is a very light lift form that's due on the 22nd.
Ali Morris, your line is open for your question.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. My question is regarding the, you talk about an emerging CDFI and startup and trying to get it together, but in your audit and financial presentation, it seemed like you were looking for some history of activity. And so I'm concerned. I have actually have a certified CDE, and I have already did all of the other DUNS and SAM registration and AMIS and all that, but we don't have any activity to reflect in the history. So I'm wondering, is there going to be a problem with an organization that has no history as far as the audits and financial?
Sure, this is Elizabeth. I'd be happy to answer that question. The CDE designation is, a great one to have. I'm glad your organization has been doing that. I would just highlight again to make sure that you are interested in becoming as well a CDFI. We do have organizations that are both, but for the CDFI, that primary test for emerging applicants is whether you'll be able to demonstrate certification, specifically that piece about becoming a financing entity, within the 2 to 3 year mark. So, as you know, we do have organizations that apply without financial history, and you can, explain that in your narrative. But we would also need to see, some evidence of when you were going to start lending and getting into the financial products so that we would know you were on the path to becoming a CDFI.
One other quick question. Do you have any programs similar to this that are available for certified CDEs?
That is a great question. I am going to ask Andrew to take that one.
So your question specific about like a technical assistance, like, hey, I'm trying to set up a CDE and I'd like to have technical assistance resources to do that. I do not. I mean, that's a question for New Markets Tax Credit Program. I do not. That's not on my radar. I don't think there are resources available. Maybe somebody else on the call might know, but I think that would be specific to, establishing a fundamentally different type of organization. And as Elizabeth shared, the CDFI certification is really around helping empower organizations to become certified community development financial institutions.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Kenneth Resimo, your line is open for your question.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think I have a technical question. My organization will be making an emerging CDFI technical assistance application, but eventually we'll create a subsidiary to operate the CDFI as a subsidiary because the emerging applicant, the agency making the application is for lack of a better word, a conglomerate nonprofit with many subsidiaries. And I just want to confirm that I don't have to create the subsidiary before we make the TA application. Thank you.
Hi, this is Amber Bell. I'm the program manager, and I think this is a really excellent question. In the NOFA, it specifically says the organization that applies for technical assistance, that it has to become the organization that becomes the CDFI. So in this case, the entity that eventually is going to become the CDFI needs to be the one that applies. So if you are a parent company and you intend to spin off an organization, that is not an eligible activity for CDFI program. If you are a native CDFI, or if you are a native organization intending to create a native CDFI, that is an eligible category, and it's called sponsoring entity. And this is a good example of where an organization can have, zero history and still be possible. It's successful for an award as if, there was a controlling entity that spun something off, and the spun-off entity has no history, but in the narrative can explain where it's getting its funding from, how it's going to build its portfolio, how it has expertise, and how it's going to become certified. That is a good example of how an entity with no operating history can be a successful CDFI.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Kim LeFranc, your line is open for your question.
Hi, thank you for taking this. I have a question about building out a projected expense budget. Basically, if we are given an award, is there flexibility to adjust how we expend the funds from one line item to another within eligible categories? We were a TA awardee a few years ago now, and there was quite a bit of flexibility, but I haven't found any commentary on that anywhere.
Hi, yes, this is Matthew. I just want to confirm that, yes, it is possible to move from one line item to another, but just remember that you do have to keep it in one of the eligible activity categories. And we talked about those earlier in the presentation. There are 7 for the CDFI program and 8 for the NACA program, just for sponsoring entities. But also know that in your narrative, you're not going to be asked to provide a specific line item budget, but you are going to be asked to provide a general plan for how you intend to use the funds. So is that helpful?
Yes, that is. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Carleen Sinclair Robinson, your line is open.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
go ahead.
Can.
Okay, great. First and foremost, some of us were so early in getting the TA application guidance document. You had apparently stated March 1st for the SF 424. So has there been an updated document placed on the website yet?
There is. Hi, this is Elizabeth. I apologize. There was a typo on the guidance that went out. We corrected it in less than 24 hours, but you're right. Some of you guys are downloaded it really quickly. So the updated version is there, and it does conform to the NOFA dates, which has the March 22nd deadline for the SF 424, and then the May 3rd deadline for the overall application.
Okay, great. And thank you. I believe the caller before and got one of my questions answered also regarding the process of if the funds per the line items that we can use the funds for if there were changes. And just as a certified CDFI organization we experienced drastic growth last year in terms of demand for capital need, which I don't have to share what you understand where that is coming from. And so with the need that we currently have, we are looking at applying for this TA assistance. So will there be any challenges for an organization that's already certified? We had only received one before as a TA grant from the CDFI fund. So just want to make sure that we are good to go to apply for this from that angle.
Sure. Thanks for your question. So if I understood, I heard you say a couple of things. One that, your organization has seen a dramatic need for capital. So if you're actually, if you do have that CDFI certification and you are looking for capital to lend, that is not an eligible use of TA. You would want to apply for the financial assistance grant.
No, we wouldn't be using it for lending. We actually need to hire.
Yes, then that is fine. If your organization is certified but meets the CECA eligibility criteria in the NOFA, that's an acronym SECA that stands for a small and emerging CDFI assistance. So if you are still under those threshold amounts and or start date as of your most recent threshold asset sizes for your most recent historic fiscal year or your financing date, you may absolutely apply for a TA for operational and support expenses to continue your great work.
Yes, it's been a crazy time. Thank you.
It sure has, and thank you to everyone on the ground. The work you're doing in our communities is so needed.
Appreciate it.
Clark Ritchie, your line is open. Clark Ritchie, your line is open for your question. Zara Collins, your line is open.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we received the TA last year here at our credit union, and I just wanted to double check, are there any significant changes to the application on AMIS that we should be looking out for? That's my first question. And then my second question is, I just want to make sure that I am correct that we can apply for TA assistance every year as long as we don't meet that aggregate number. Is that correct?
Partially. This is Elizabeth. So for your first question, is it the same? There are no significant changes this year. We have tried to make improvements in a couple places that we know needed some help from the year before, but the structure is by and large the same. There's been no changes to any of the narrative questions. No new financial data we're asking for, et cetera. For your second question, if you received your TA award last year, then that probably means you have a PG&M to become certified within 3 years of last year, so 2 more years. So yes, you may apply for a TA this year. Organizations that are uncertified can apply for up to 3 TA grants before they are required to become certified. So if last year was your first one and you're not certified yet, absolutely you may still apply.
Okay, yes, we are certified.
Sorry, if you have become certified, then yes, it would depend on the asset limits and or the financial activity start date. And if you are under those thresholds, you may apply for a TA even as a certified CDFI.
Thank you.
And LaFranc, your line is open.
Hi, yes, I have a question regarding the eligibility requirements to apply, and specifically as it pertains to the CEQA guidelines of needing to have below $5 million in total assets to be able to apply. If I interpret the right year I need to be looking at, I believe that we are slightly above this amount. However, a large portion of our assets are future contributions that have been committed to us but won't be coming in for anywhere from 1 to 6 years. So our total assets in some respects is inflated in terms of what we're actually able to do and how big we are. Would this make any difference in our ability to be able to apply for TA funding?
So this is Amber, and so the challenge is that we have to have a uniform point in time measurement for all CDFIs, and the goal is that whatever your audit says is your total assets based on your most recently completed fiscal year is the number we have to use for eligibility. So basically is depending on when your fiscal year end is. So if your fiscal year end is 12/31, your most recently completed fiscal year end would be then we are counting it as of December 31, 2019. That is the audit amount that we have to go with that's reported in your audit.
Okay.
So if you based on 2019, not 2020, right? Based on 2019, if it's above $5 million, then you qualify for the, and are certified, then you qualify for the core program.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Andres Chavez, your line is open.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. To follow up on the gentleman's call, the gentleman's question, I apologize, about the nonprofit kind of conglomerate of sorts and how they're looking to create a CDFI as a spin-off organization. In one of the answers, somebody mentioned that more information can be found looking at was it the NOVA? But where can I find that information at? Because we were under the understanding that we could apply as the larger organization and spin something off.
Yeah, it's called the NOFA. This is Amber, and I provided the answer before. So you can see on the screen now, it's the #1 document here. So you can click the NOFA. And if you click that you are seeing the Federal Register version of that, you can go down to eligibility criteria for all, and it's called applicant. You go to the section that says applicant under eligibility. You see this eligibility information. There's a table here. And it says right here it just scrolled past. But it says only the entity that will carry out the proposed award activities may apply for an award other than a depository holding company. So really what that means is the entity that applies for it, or TA, that's proposing to become a CDFI. And the third bullet is what we're talking about is like you can't apply on behalf of someone else even if it is going to be created. So what you can do is if that new organization has a DUNS or an EIN or is that separate entity, even if it doesn't have activity, it can apply. The only case where an entity can apply on behalf of another entity is in the case of a depository holding company that is going to carry out the activity of its ward through its subsidiary. And if you are a sponsoring entity and you are a native CDFI or a native organization spinning off another native group.
Thank you.
I'm currently showing no additional questions in the queue. To ask a question, press *1.
And Kasim, this is Andrew. Maybe as additional questions, and we're happy to hold the line and answer all the questions that folks have. But while people are still joining the queue, I'll just again, for everyone's benefit, navigate back to the website and show again where today's materials and the webinars, these recordings can be shared with your colleagues or for future reference. Again, under programs, CDFI or Native initiatives, the pages are the same. Underneath, how to apply, step 2. And here is the timeline, so you can see, and we'll just put a plug in as Elizabeth and Matthew have shared. There's a webinar, so groups that might have, like the last couple of callers who are finding out they're not eligible to apply for technical assistance, based on asset size or whatever, or if you're, over your number of technical assistance awards, or for whatever reason you are no longer eligible to apply for technical assistance, you would be eligible to apply for financial assistance, which again was issued under the same notice of funding availability, the NOFA, and a webinar just like this one is set up for this Thursday at the same time using the same call bridge information, so same website with WebEx, but that will be this Thursday, the 25th of February at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then here's the application timeline again and all the resources that we covered today. So if you look again on the application webinars, you can see there's 3 more webinars that have been scheduled. So as you get into your application, you might have more, questions that you'd like to ask. We're going to hold a targeted CDFI program question and answer on April 7th. So looking out a few months at this point, and then one designed for Native Initiative applications on April 8th. But again, if you have decided or determined based on the information we've shared today, which was published in the NOFA, that, TA might not be the right fit for your organization and you're looking for, financing capital, encourage you to join our webinar, which is Thursday, the 25th at 2. So Tasha, did any other calls come in?
Yes, we have one question in the queue from Clark Ritchie, and your line is open.
Hi, Clark. Clark, you may be on mute. Tasha, we're not hearing from Clark.
All right. I'm showing no additional questions in the queue. Mr. Clark Ritchie, would you please try unmuting your line?
And maybe while Clark's playing with the mute button, one important caveat I just neglected to mention here, just to underscore, the financial assistance program is only for certified CDFIs. So if your organization is not yet certified, you're going to be eligible to apply for technical assistance. So the call on Thursday, if you're not certified, at this point I wouldn't even recommend it. The best fit to your organization is going to be technical assistance, which is what we've covered today. Tasha, was Clark able to get the phone working?
It does not appear so, no.
So this is Elizabeth. I would jump in for Clark and any others if you have follow-up questions. The best way to ask us those is through your AMIS account. Log into AMIS and submit a service request. There are a variety of program topics, so you'll be able to pick that it's for the CDFI program, and you'll be able to pick that it's for the application. That's really, truly the fastest way to get questions for us, to get questions to us. So if you have questions, or for Clark, since we're having trouble with your line, please go about asking through the service request feature.
Great reminder. Thanks, Elizabeth. So Tasha, at this point, there aren't any additional questions. We want to thank everyone for your participation and interest in the fiscal year 2021 Technical Assistance Program. Absolutely, we're available, most accessible through the service request option, so if you have any additional questions. And then please sign up for the .gov delivery notices, again, at our website. You'll get timely information on the subscribe button. I suspect a lot of folks have already subscribed, but since we're here, just encourage you to sign up for our .gov email alert if anything changes, and keep an eye out for this recording and future recordings to be posted on our website as they're available. Thanks again for everyone's participation. Hope you have a great day.